Today we're going to go down to Duval Street. We're going to start at the quiet end, and then we're going to go all the way down to the busier end, and then hopefully right in the middle of Duval Street, I'm going to go off the street a couple of blocks to my dad's house. He's one of Key West legends. We're going to ask him a couple questions about living down there in that area. And in case we've never met before, my name's Gregory. I'm also a licensed realtor here in Key West and the Florida Keys. I've helped over 100 people just like you buy, sell, invest, and relocate to these wonderful islands. Now, my wife Marcella, my daughter Venice, and our puppy Honey, we were all born and raised here, and we absolutely love this island lifestyle. So please like and subscribe, because this is a good way to educate yourself about Key West and the Florida Keys. So I'm starting this video at the south side of Duval Street. We have the infamous buoy behind me, the southernmost buoy. Duval Street runs from the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf, and it's about 1.25 miles. And we also have the southernmost beach cafe right behind me. So this is considered to be the quieter end of Duval Street, where you have less bars, more cafes and art galleries, and less amplified music. So Duval Street is one of Key West's main attractions. If you live up the Keys or live in Key West, or you're just here visiting, chances are you're going to come down here from time to time and enjoy the live music and all the great restaurants. And there's some great festivals down here. They have songwriters, there's fantasy fests, and there's a bunch of wonderful parades. Duval Street isn't just a party street, it's the historic heart of Key West, and it changes from block to block. Now, living on Duval Street or near Duval Street, it's a completely different vibe than just visiting. When you are living in this downtown area, everything is walkable. You can get groceries, you can go to all kinds of great restaurants, and also behind me is the famous Butterfly Conservatory. I take my daughter there all the time, and she absolutely loves it. Well, I used to live in this downtown area, and sometimes I do really miss it. It was so great to be able to just wake up and go to the different Cuban cafes and get some lunch. And when I was a kid, there was a great arcade down here. It was a great place to grow up. If I was thinking about buying a house near Duval Street, I would definitely want to do a showing on a Friday night or Saturday night to hear what the noise levels are like. One of the great things about living in this Duval area is you'll have these spontaneous social meetups. And you go outside, you talk to your neighbor. This is a very social environment. This is one of those areas where you go and people, the bartender knows your name, the waitresses know your name, you get to know everybody, and you have that strong sense of community. So even though growing up, my house was rather close to Duval Street, my dad also had 2 stores on Duval Street, and then he also had a painting studio on Southern Street. He would paint abstract paintings on shirts and then take it down to his shops and sell them there. And I would do paintings on canvases and paper and go to the corner and sell them for a couple of bucks. And that was how I grew up. When living on Duval Street or near Duval Street, parking can be a little bit difficult. So having an off-street parking spot is a major plus. It may cost you an additional $200,000, but that definitely helps. They also have residential spots, and you get a sticker from the city and you put it on your front windshield, and you can park in any of those residential spots. So I'm on the 1200 block of Duval Street. There's some really nice art galleries here, and then behind me there's a great restaurant called La Grenote, and then there's also another art gallery right behind me as well. This is a great little area, very low key and a lot quieter than the other side of Duval Street. So when I come to Duval Street and Mallory Square, I expect to see a lot of tourists. In the middle of the summer when there's not a lot of tourists, it kind of seems dead. There's not a lot going on. So I actually really enjoy it. I also really love coming down here and meeting new people. I do read the comments all the time, and I do hear people saying, oh, Key West is just a tourist trap. Yeah, this area of Duval Street, there's a lot of tourists down here, and expect to see a lot of tourists. But a majority of Key West does not have tourists. So if that's not your thing, you don't have to be around tourists. So right now I live in Midtown. I do miss living closer to downtown. I'm about 2 miles away, but I really did used to enjoy the walkability and love being able to skate downtown and just go to all the different restaurants. So it's one of those things. It's kind of like when I lived up the Keys and I had my boat in the canal behind my house, I used it a lot more. I still come downtown when I live in Key West, but not as much as when I lived a few blocks from it. So the closer you get to Duval Street, the more expensive the houses get. So in my price range, I'd have a very tight house with not much yard, That's the price you pay from living closer to Duval Street. I prefer to have a little bit of a bigger house, essentially located closer to the grocery stores like Publix. But my dad, he wants to live 2 blocks from Duval Street. He wants to walk around. He wants to be on his bicycle. He doesn't want to get into a car, and he goes down to the Green Parrot all the time and enjoys the live music. So right behind me is one of my daughter's favorite spots, Flamingo Crossing. She likes to get that homemade ice cream, and it's just a great little hangout spot as well. Not too busy and great social environment. I really do love all the local art down here. Duval Street is like a living, walking museum. I also really love the architecture down here. All this historic charm really adds to Key West, and it gives it great character. Something that's really important to me is living in a place that has a great personality. This whole town has a certain energy and a certain vibe that you don't get other places. Key West is very unique in that aspect. The beaches that I love near Duval Street are Higgs Beach, and then the closest one would be Fort Zachary Taylor. It's a state park, and it's one of the most gorgeous beaches in all the Florida Keys. So living in an area where you have this great walkability, you can also hop on your bike to get around. I think that can have some really great health benefits, especially because you can do it 365 days a year. Down here in Key West, people definitely give up square footage for the lifestyle. This town is about a lifestyle and being able to spend a lot of time outdoors and enjoying the water and beaches and going to all these wonderful bars and restaurants. So living close to Duval Street or on Duval Street is definitely not for everyone. There's definitely pros and cons, so it's very important to do your homework before making such a huge decision. So almost every house in Key West, you're supposed to rent it for 28 days or more if you were going to rent it out. So this is very important. If I was thinking about buying a property on Duval Street or near Duval Street, I would definitely check to see if the next door neighbor has a transient license. A transient license allows the property to be rented nightly. And this would affect the amount of noise that's coming through there, because sometimes those nightly rentals, the people are just coming down for the weekend to party. So I would want to know that for my own peace of mind, because almost everywhere in Key West is a 28-day or more rental. Now, those rentals tend to take better care of the property, and a lot of them are either retirees or coming down there to work remotely and not just there to party or disturb the neighborhood. So one of the great things about living near Duval Street and around Duval Street is a lot of these houses are in the X flood zone. The X flood zone is the best flood zone in Key West. So we're coming to the 600 block of Duval Street. This is right in the middle of Duval Street. And then behind me, we have Super Happy, Me So Happy, one of my favorite restaurants. And then you also have Mr. Z's in the cafe. And then when you come over here to the corner, my dad had a studio gallery over here, and then he had 2 stores over here to the left. So this is the part of Duval Street where it starts to get a little bit busier, a little bit noisier. And then when you get over to the other side of Duval Street, that's where you have Rick's and Sloppy Joe's, and then it gets quite a bit noisier. But this is a great little area. People love to live in this area because when you go up Southern Street, you are at the top of Solaris Hill, the highest point in Key West, so you also have the highest elevation, and that real estate is extremely sought after. So behind me, my dad had this store called Art Attack, and that was pretty much where I grew up. I used to work in the store, and he sold art and jewelry and tie-dye t-shirts, and it was a great childhood and great hangout area. And when you come over here, behind me, we have the Birkenstock place. My buddy's dad owned that one, so we would just run back and forth. And then further up the street, he also had a store called Open Minded. And as a kid, I used to remember he would just sprint from one store to the other. I don't know why he was always running, but he was running. So another great restaurant that I love is Antonia's. It's an Italian restaurant. Great dining experience. And then you also like most restaurants, I just want to eat and then I just want to get up and leave. But for some reason, that particular restaurant, it just has me when I'm sitting there, I just don't want to leave. It's very comfortable, great atmosphere. So also behind me, we have the Old Town Mexican Cafe. I love that place. This block has some of my favorite restaurants in all of Key West. So if you live close to this 600 block of Duval Street, you have the greatest walkability, I think, in all of Key West. So now we're at the 500 block of Duval Street. Behind me on the top floor is my office, Expert Realty, and such a great location. So if you ever want to come in and stop by and see me, just give me a call and I'll meet you down here if I'm not already down here. So now we're gonna walk over to my father's house. He's a bit of a local legend. He lives 2 blocks off of Duval Street, and we're going to ask him some questions and see what he likes about living down in this area. All right, so last time we visited my dad, he was fixing the dryer because he refused to get a new one. He's not an appliance technician. So we're gonna pop by his house and see what he is up to and ask him some questions about living downtown Key West. Excuse me, sir. How's it going today?
It's going well.
Okay, so we were over here 2 blocks off of Duval Street at Tony Gregory's house. He's also my father. And how long have you lived in Key West?
50 years.
And what made you decide to come to Key West?
Came to Key West on spring break in 1975. That's spring break from teaching art at Annapolis Senior High. And the first night was spectacular I had in Key West, and I said, I'm moving here.
At that point, you decided you knew that that was where you wanted to live forever, or?
You know, I'd traveled all over the United States. I traveled all over Europe, always looking for, the place, and I never saw the place. And then the first night in Key West, I went in. Key West at that time was seasonal. Like pretty much after Easter, it was sort of over. Nothing was going on in the summertime then, although now it's just year round, crazy. But that particular night, I went to go to the Bull on Duval Street, a bar on Duval Street called the Bull and Whistle. And as I got to the very large door that houses and enters into the Bull there, the door was sort of closed in front of me. And I, banged on it a little bit, and they let me in. And they said, you're the last one to come in, And when I walked in, the manager of the Bull walked up to the stage where the band was playing and said, season's over, all drinks are free, tip your bartenders well. And the band broke into 3 songs that I'll never forget: Mr. Skin by Spirit, and As My Guitar Gently Weeps, and Bell Bottom Blues. That whole time, the bartenders were dancing on the bar, and then the drinks started flowing. And I looked at the girl that I was with, and I said, I'm moving here.
So you've seen Key West change a lot throughout the years. Would you say that things have changed for the worse, things have changed for the better, or both?
I'd say both. I was here for 5 years, and people were ducking out because it was changing so much. And then I looked at everybody and I just said, the world's really changing. And I still think that this is the best place. That's what I was saying 5 years after I was here, 10 years after I'm here, 50 years after I'm here. I still think this is the best place, and the world has changed. The world has changed as much as Key West has.
And right now you live 2 blocks off of Duval Street. How do you like living off of Duval Street? For the same price, you could have a lot bigger house in Midtown or Newtown. Why do you choose to live in this area?
I've always wanted, I've almost all the whole 50 years lived in Old Town. It's so much more convenient. It's always a bicycle ride away from anywhere I want to be. My whole life is pretty much in about a 6-block area from my gallery on Caroline Street to the house here, to the house that I had for 35 years.
Quick question. What are you doing here?
This. I'm fixing a hole. I'm fixing a hole in my pants. These are hand sewn by my sister to keep the patches, to keep patches in there, but I just like my old pants. Now I've used this contact cement.
So you had 2 shops on Duval Street, and when you sold Art Attack, you were the oldest sole proprietor on Duval Street. Is that correct?
I was the longest sole proprietor on Duval Street at that time.
And right now, where is your business?
Caroline Street, 830 Caroline.
And it's an art gallery
and studios,
painting
upstairs.
Studio. What do you think were the best years to own a store on Duval Street?
That's a tough one. I wouldn't want to be there now.
Why not?
I just think that the clientele of Duval Street has changed a lot. And I think there's better clientele down on like Caroline Street.
What about even the quieter end where all the other art galleries are?
That would be nice, but the rents or owning a property there is so much greater, than Caroline Street area. I'm okay with being off of Duval Street after 35 years being there.
And how long did you own those stores?
Well, I started off in 76 or 77 with a store called Gregory's Fantasy, and that lasted about a year, and then I opened up Art Attack on Southern Street, which was more of a studio, and then I picked up another Art Attack on Duval Street at 606, and I coincided to own those two at the same time for about 10 years, and then I just kept the Art Attack on Duval Street and left the studio. And I also had, with my partner Christine, I had Open Minded in the 700 block, and that was probably about 15 years or so.
So why did you decide to get rid of Open Minded?
Well, we bought property on Caroline Street, and then we rented it for a while and rented it out for a while as we got plans for tearing down that small little shack that we bought and building a 2-story, big, huge upgrades.
Weren't they also raising your rent?
All the time.
And then what about finding employees because that seems to be a big issue when you're a business owner down here.
Yeah, having employees is an issue in Key West. It's tough to pay people what they need to deserve to, their work. They need to live here. I would say about 10 years ago or so, basically it was, you either had two roommates and 3 jobs, or 3 roommates and 2 jobs.
I mean, there's always been a housing crisis here, right? Even since
not when I got here. I mean, I lived in a really nice big house across from Casa Marina. It was really big, and I think maybe 6 of us lived there, and each of us was $75 a month. And the Casa Marina was completely derelict with a high fence around it, and wasn't opened.
What do you love about the lifestyle with Key West?
Key West is an artist community. I'm an artist. I love fishing. Love being on my bicycle instead of driving a car.
What do you love about the people in Key West?
I think the people are great in Key West. I mean, people pretty much, leave you alone. They're very friendly. You just can be yourself. I mean, that was the first thing I noticed. Like I said, the first night I was in Key West was that I wasn't weird anymore.
I noticed you always go far out of your way to help your neighbor. Like the other day when you were going to help them with chairs, and then you had said that it started raining and you got caught underneath the tree, and there was a bunch of tourists underneath the tree with you. And then what happened?
So I was trying to make it home, and I got stuck under a roof on the corner at the top of Solaris Hill, and then there was tourists walking down the street. They appeared to be tourists, and they were ducked under a tree, and so I made it. It was about maybe four houses away, and I made it to there under the tree, and I was then about 4 houses from my house. So I was, still raining pretty good, and I didn't want to get completely soaked. And the guy across the street, and a new neighbor, walked out on his porch, and he hollered across to those 4 and to myself, because we were all together at that time. He had these really nice long umbrellas. He goes, "Hey, you guys, you can take my umbrellas if you want, just as long as you return them." I just thought, that's Key West, man.
All right. Thank you so much for the interview. All right. Have a wonderful day. Don't get glue on me.
Oh, no.
I will catch you later. All right. So now we're getting to the busier side of Duval Street. We have Tropic Cinema behind me, a great little movie theater. And then you also have Kojin Noodle Bar, a great little noodle place. I go there all the time. I get the Dragon Bowl. And this downtown area, this is where it gets a little more active, a little more loud music. It's a party scene. So on this busier side of Duval Street, there are tons of great restaurants, great places to listen to live music. But if you are looking at a place in this area, I definitely would want to check it out on a Friday night and Saturday night just to see what the noise levels are like. So this is the busier side of Duval Street. You have Amigos Mexican restaurant behind me, also Captain Tony's and Sloppy Joe's. You have so much crammed into this tiny little area. There's a great energy going on with it. You have tons of people. It's a fun atmosphere. And then you also have Mallory Square, which is a block away. I love going there, taking my daughter to the sunset celebration. And then you also have little gelato places where I love to take my daughter there as well. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. I really appreciate it. If you get a chance, please leave a comment below whether you agree, disagree, anything you'd like to add. I answer all of them personally. And if you're thinking about making a move to Key West or the Florida Keys, please contact me anytime, day or night. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And just keep living that island lifestyle.